Hi, everybody. I'm Rogers Healy, and welcome back to Rogers That, a podcast dedicated to selling without selling out. And today I have one of my sales heroes, someone who has defied the odds, who is defying everything from age to statistics to just being an entrepreneur. It's Lisa Pineiro. And Lisa, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I'm so glad you're doing this.
I am too. I'm so glad. And I'm so glad all y'all people that are hopefully watching and listening are part of this. And I almost said Lisa was glowing, which would have been a perfect segue into kind of how we connected. But I'm going to try to give my background on how I met you, and then I want you to introduce the world to kind of who you are and what got you here. But Lisa's been a friend of mine, and in the city of Dallas, which is it's a brutal city. It's a dog-eat-dog city. Lisa has found a way to always
You make it sound so awful.
Well, it's not awful, but I mean, Dallas doesn't. People don't understand Dallas like we do.
There's a certain vibe to Dallas that you have to learn to navigate, I think.
Yeah, but Lisa doesn't know this, but the first time I met her, Lisa hosted a TV show. What was the show?
The Broadcast.
The Broadcast. And,
were you on the?
No.
Were you on the? Okay.
I was fanboy in the front row. So Courtney Kerr, who's a mutual friend of both of ours, was on the show as well, and we got invited. This was right when I started my company, and I got to bring the RHA agents to the Broadcast set. It was like an Addison.
How did I not know this?
No one knows this, but this was...
well, I mean, you were sitting right there. I should have...
Well, I'll bring it full circle, and this is when I've evolved as a salesperson that doesn't sell out. But I used to have these T-shirts, and it said, Rogers Healy is my realtor. And they kind of got well-known through Britney Spears, which is a whole other story. She's a soon-to-be guest. Brittany, if you're watching, congrats on your wedding to Sam.
I know this story. You told me this story.
And I brought a shirt, and I was so nervous that at the end of it, I wanted Lisa to hold up a Rogers Healy is my realtor T-shirt. And Courtney finally let me go after you had like a chef on the episode. It wasn't Kyle. It was like someone else.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for a long time, I had Lisa's picture in our office, and here we are full circle. I couldn't find the photo, but yeah, you've been a relevant and prominent figure, but you've been consistent, and you've been a happy person that brings a lot of joy. And as my journey as an entrepreneur kind of took flight, I got obsessed with private equity and being a part of people's journey as an investor. And that's how I met Lisa on a more personal level, is that she is the genius behind a company called Glotrition, which we're drinking here today. We have proudly displayed as well.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, no, thank you. But anyway, there's a lot about you that we don't know, I don't know. So maybe share with us a little bit about your journey into entrepreneurship and how you've stayed relevant.
I mean, how much time do we have?
An hour and a half.
So I'm like, I call myself like an accidental entrepreneur. Sales wasn't my thing. I didn't want to go down that road. It was never anything that was of much interest to me. Actually, I have to tell you this is funny. When I was 17 years old, I was living in California, and I studied to take the real estate exam.
Wow.
At 17.
Wow.
It was when they had, like, remember the Century 21 schools that you would go to?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So did that and failed horribly. And so I was like, maybe that's not the path for me. Fast forward through college, really had an interest in broadcasting, and found kind of this love of writing and of telling stories, and so went down that career path, and that was 25 years of my life or so.
Wow. Was
being on television, doing the news. I was a news anchor for most of that time. And then at the kind of tail end of I call it my first act, the tail end of my first act, my first career, I was doing that show that you just mentioned, The Broadcast.
When was that, like 2008?
No, that was 2012. 2011 or 2012. And then we were on until like 2015 before we got canceled.
It was you and Courtney, a lady with red hair. I forget.
Susie Humphreys.
If
you are a Dallasite, then you know Susie. She was a radio personality back in the day, and she is an absolute hoot. Loved being on the show with her.
I love it.
Very opinionated.
That's what you need for TV.
Yeah.
Good.
And wasn't ashamed to share it.
Cool. But okay,
Pat Smith was the other one on the show.
Who was it? Oh, Pat Smith. Yeah,
yeah,
Emmett's ex-wife. Not that I'm like, oh, Emmett. I don't know Emmett Smith. Okay, so but your journey into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so it started while I was doing the broadcast. It was because we taped it in the morning. I had really the rest of the day to try to figure out what else I wanted to do. And I have a little ADD, so like
I have a lot of ADD.
I got really bored. I couldn't just be home with nothing to do after the show. So I started this company, Glotrition, and so what we do for our jobs isn't always what our passion is.
Yeah.
My passion has always been health and wellness and nutrition and learning about supplements and learning about longevity and anti-aging, all of it. And in broadcasting, some of the stories that I would do were kind of geared towards that.
Cool.
I was working in Salt Lake City at the time, and they were doing some really great research on ingestible supplements as it relates to beauty and your skin.
What year are we talking?
Gosh, 2006 maybe.
Okay.
4. I mean, it was a while ago.
Well.
And I started learning about supplements that you can take for your skin and for your overall health and wellness. And they put me on a little regimen of like 15 huge pills every day. I was taking those pills. My skin was glowing. People were asking me, like, because I was doing the news then, I was on the air, and people would say, like, what are you doing? Like, are you new makeup or new, So people were noticing. It was very challenging, though, to take that many pills every day and be consistent about it.
Wow.
So then fast forward this many years later, I always knew that regimen worked for me, but I was like, I wonder if there's a way that I could get that regimen just in a much easier form. And I was at lunch with a girlfriend, and she pulled out one of those Crystal Light packets.
Yeah.
And she was putting it in her water. And I was like, man, if I could just get all my vitamins like that and drink it, how great would that be? And the rest is history.
Really?
And then, and I think what's really interesting too is like when you have an idea as an entrepreneur, and you start to go down that road. It's been my experience in my life that the things that are meant to be, the things that are easiest, are the things that flow. When you move forward and you keep hitting that brick wall, there's something's off, right?
Yeah.
And for this particular project, it was great. I found a chemist here in Dallas who understood my vision, and it was all, I will never use the word easy, but it was all very
natural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird when you think as an entrepreneur, the stuff that most people dread, when it comes natural to you, you're like, oh wow, and then you kind of, it sounds bad, but you kind of long for the challenges where you're like, okay, why is this kind of coming to me easy or natural too? But I'm sure you face some of that kind of stuff. And again, the premise of this podcast is to, share your successes, share your journey, but also maybe, make sure people stay motivated knowing that it's okay to always do the right thing, right? Which I'm sure with you, as you've grown this company since 2015, is that when Glotrition actually launched?
Yeah, 14 and launched product.
So almost a decade ago, which obviously it's you're always growing your company, you're always growing your brand, always scaling. But maybe what are some of the challenges you faced along the way that gave you that like breath of fresh air? You're like, okay, I'm going to keep going. Because I think most people, I think statistically, entrepreneurs don't last, I think, longer than 2 years. 90% of people fail or they quit.
Businesses,
Yeah. Which for you, obviously, you've been against the statistic again.
On wood, yeah.
No, you're past the point of failure, and I think that some people I never knew what I was doing, and I still kind of don't.
I still feel that way.
Yeah, but I think that's what gets me out of bed, where I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn something today, and I have to go and remain humble and relatable. But for you, maybe share some of your stories with us on that side of things.
I think if you always think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You always need to be striving, learning, doing. It's a cheesy saying, but I say it all the time, is like it's not about the end result, it's really about the journey. And you learn so much through a process of starting a company and creating a product. You learn what to do, you learn what not to do. I mean, for me, the sales piece of it, again, that wasn't my strong suit to begin with.
You've been on QVC. You've been featured in Forbes.
But that came later, right?
Yeah.
Like the QVC thing came later. So when I first started the company, it was really almost selfish. I was like, I want to get this regimen of mine in a way that I want to take it, And then I realized, wait, I just created this really cool product. I should share it with people. And so I started talking about it to people, and I started going to spas and saying, would you like to sell this for me? And
so you were doing the selling yourself, like you were out there, boots on the ground.
I would load my trunk. I did the first run of product, and I want to say we did did we do like 1,000 units maybe? And it
That means
seemed like
bags, like an actual
yeah,
bag.
right. And it seemed like so much. And I thought, how the hell am I gonna? I can only take so much of it. So what am I going to do with all of this? And I thought for sure, like it would go bad. It would sit in my garage, and I would never. So I loaded up the trunk of my car before I left for work in the morning for the broadcast. I would do the broadcast, and then I would have my little list, and I would literally go down the list of day spas in the Dallas and surrounding area. And I would drive and show up with samples and beg them to carry my product. I think so much of sales, it starts from a place of like, I really don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
And really, you just sort of like fake it till you make it.
No, it's true.
Didn't you feel that way?
I mean, yes and no, because you have a different background where you were successful from the start with something. And with me, you talk about the real estate exam, ironically, you might or may not know this, but I took the real estate exam more than anyone in the history of Texas. I took it 22 times, literally. But failure was just kind of in my blood, and I got used to it. Where the hard thing for me with being successful, relatively successful, is the actual success part, right? When it's like kind of smooth air, I'm like, what am I missing here?
But did you ever feel it as failure? Were you really in tune to like, wow, I failed?
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what makes you feel alive. I think that in life, when you fall in love, when you get your heart broken, when you lose something, when you win something, like that's when you're feeling life at its rawest form.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's what, the obsession with growing something, where the first time you sold 1,000 units, you're like, okay, how do I sell 10,000 units?
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize you can't go to every spa in every city every day. You have to go and have a team. And I think that's what, keeps people in that mindset of being a genuine salesperson, is that you're not just going and you have to orchestrate. And one of the guys I talked to in this podcast earlier was the fascination of an orchestra, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if people don't know this, but the person that plays the cello or the trumpet or whatever, if they fall over, the orchestrator goes over there and they can pick it up, right? And that's what you've done, is that's kind of part of scaling. But yeah, I feel failure all the time.
It's funny. I asked that question because, and that I have 4 sons, and you
who are randomly incredibly good looking, which is a whole nother podcast.
They're actually just stellar human beings, truly. And you, as a new dad, you're in this position now where you have a little human to teach and mold and set examples for. And I say that about failure. And do you actually feel it as failure, or are you able to remap that in your head and start feeling it as an opportunity?
Yeah.
And that, for me, that was a big mind shift that, I've kind of tried to teach my boys that too, is that, failure has such a negative connotation around it. And let me be clear, I've failed numerous times.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, when you start a business and you're in sales and you're selling a product, you're doing whatever, it's like a weekly basis. There's some sort of failure, something that I didn't do the way that I wanted it to be done. But you start to realize that it's in those moments. That's where the good stuff is. That's where you learn the most about who you are as a person. What are you made of? How do you move forward in life and relationships, and that means business and otherwise. I learned so much about myself in those moments that would be framed as failure for most everyone.
This is the part where, give us an example. You have to tell us, like, as someone who started a business and you're working uphill, you have chemists, you have people that are...
I do have a story for this. So early on in the company, we found this... We found a chemist to formulate it for me, but then we had a different group actually make it. So they made our first batch, and the first batch was like maybe 500 or 600 units. I said the first batch of that full run that we did with the finished product. Mm-hmm. But before that, there were a lot of iterations of the product. Like, we tried to, different ingredients and et cetera. Anyway, they'd finished our run, and it was a 800 units, whatever. And I was so excited that
means you had to commit to buying 5 or...
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was so excited that we finally had something finished. And I was like, oh my gosh, I made this. And it is not the product that you see today.
Noted.
This was, yes. I was so excited about it. And I was hosting a parade. It was like the 4th of July parade in Dallas in Highland Park, University Park. Anyway, I'm up.
For all y'all watching, literally the largest 4th of July parade in the country. So let's just go ahead. It is, yeah.
I should know that, so I was hosting it. But so I'm sitting up there with my co-host on the stage, and I've got my Glotrition and I pack it and I add it to my water and I shake it up and I set it down on the stage. And it's July in Texas, so it's hot as hell.
Yeah.
And, a couple minutes later, I reached down and the sun was kind of beating down on us. So the sun had hit it and I picked it up and I opened the cap and I went to go drink it and oh my God, the smell. It was like rotten eggs.
Oh God.
And I was like, here, smell this. Does that smell weird to you? And my co-host was like, God, what is that? And I was like, my God.
It's my new company.
Oh my God, it's my product. And I just remember like texting my fiance at the time going, oh my God. And I was like holding back tears, but we were on the air with this parade. And so I had to kind of hold it together. But talk about a failure. It was so devastating. And I just thought, well, this is it. This is obviously not going to be what I do for a living.
Obviously, it wasn't it. You kept going. So what was
I kept going, and it was that was one of those moments where it's like, okay, I can see this as failure, and just pack up and go home, and not do this as my next, not build the company. And I think it's just I'm so tenacious, and there's something about my personality that is just like, oh, hell no. Nope. That's
somebody
not
out there likes the smell of hot-ass eggs in July, and I'm going to find those people. And
they can buy
yeah.
Right? But I just was like, I'm not going down like this. We're going to get this right. We're going to go back to the drawing board. And it was difficult.
What'd you do with those 800 egg smelling ones?
Threw them away.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Man,
we threw away everything.
There are some really, really beautifully complected squirrels roaming the streets of Highland Park that broke into those trash bags.
They stink, though, I'll tell you that much.
Okay, well, we'll catch us up to today. Let's talk about your successes. Obviously, still being the same, Lisa, but tenacious and dealing with the eggs and dealing with failure.
You learn through those moments, to be strong and to go back to the drawing board and, get up. My mom used to do this thing with me and still does really to this day. Whenever something bad happened, she'd say, okay, you've got 24 hours. 24 hours to have your pity party. She'd be like, let's talk about it. Let's cry. Let's, when I got older, let's drink some wine, like whatever you need to do to kind of move through this and get through it. But you've got 24 hours. And then you get back up, we make a plan, and you move forward with your life. And so I was taught from a very young age that like, I don't allow myself to be like down and out,
I love that.
For more than 24 hours.
I love it. That's even too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to, my best friend, he tells me, keep it moving. Right?
Keep it moving, yes.
And I think the more successful you get, which that's not his phrase, he didn't coin it. I'm sure that somebody a few years back said, keep it moving, and he heard that, and then it got to me. But I think that also, as you get older and as you have more stuff coming at you, I think you have to be efficient with your emotions, which some people, that doesn't really come across as sincere. But I'm like, why am I going to go and spend 2 days, 3 days, or a month thinking about this when I have to deal with it and I have to press on?
Yeah.
It seems like you've done an incredible job with that. But talking more about your success, like give us hard numbers. Tell us how far Glotrition has come, knowing that the beauty industry, especially with collagen and ingestible stuff that's going to make people look and feel pretty, you have literally beat the odds a million times over. So maybe let's talk about the success of your company.
I mean, Glotrition right now is, I think we're valued at like 10 million, I think right now. So, we have a big plan. We have big dreams and, big numbers that we want to hit. But I think the turning point for us was when I took the company from just being, so we were selling a lot on QVC. We sold in Nordstrom. We sold in Saks, Bloomingdale's. This was before COVID. And I was really we were going down that retail road, which was fine. It was fine. And then QVC came along, and that seemed like a wonderful opportunity to take, my experience in television and marry it with the experience of now.
You're selling your own product on TV. Yeah.
Yes.
Full circle.
Full circle.
What does QVC stand for? Does anyone know?
Quality, value, convenience.
Wow. That is the highlight. Is that really?
Yeah.
You know what the W Hotel stands for?
Huh.
Nothing. That's it. That's literally my statistic or my fun fact of the day.
Okay.
It's just the letter W. Back to QVC.
Fun fact. So QVC was great. QVC got us over some humps. And I felt like it was always like that when the company really first started. It was, when we got the deal with Nordstrom, that was a big deal. And that kind of got us over the hump. There was another company called Soft Surroundings. And if you're a woman over the age of 60, then you probably know what Soft Surroundings stores are.
I've not been yet.
Catalog. Yeah. But it was great for us. They ordered a lot of product, and it really kind of like got us over 1 year hump, and then like Nordstrom came in and got us over another hump. But I thought there's got to be a better way, so I'm not just going from like retail to retail. And during COVID, we really had to focus on direct to consumer, right? Because nobody was going to the stores anymore. So we sold out in all the stores, and none of the stores were reordering, because
no one was there.
No foot traffic. So I was like, okay, we have to switch this up. So at that point is when I zeroed in on like the subscription model. And that was the game changer for our business, truly. We always offered subscription, but it just was kind of like a side, it's kind of like, it wasn't the main way we sold our product. And now it is. And, that continues to be the area that we see the most growth, is just bringing subscribers. So they get a monthly subscription to, say, our Super Beauty Elixir. And, so
Wow.
you're never without it.
What's your selling style? How would you describe to everybody watching and listening? How do you actually go and sell?
I think the most important thing in selling is to really, really be understanding of who your audience is. And I don't care if that's just like one-on-one or if it's, selling to millions of people on QVC. You have to have a decent understanding of who you're selling to. What are their concerns? That's a big one. If you don't know what their concerns are, then just leave, because there's no way you're going to sell them anything if you can't solve a problem for them. So for me, it was always about understanding who I'm talking to, understanding what their issues are, what their concerns are, and then really talking about that. And of course, for me, as a 53-year-old woman, I had a lot of the same concerns.
Did y'all hear that number? Yeah, maybe this is the part where you freeze frame and you're like, oh my gosh. If anything, that's an endorsement for Glotrition. 53.
I'll tell you, it's your nutrition, your supplements, the things that your lifestyle, it all matters when it comes to, looking your best and all that.
I'm 93 and I just started taking Glotrition and I feel
you look
so much younger.
amazing.
Yeah, I take it twice a day.
You can.
I take it twice a day every day.
People ask me that question, can we, because it's dosed as, one a day.
Am I overdosing on Glotrition?
No, the clinical studies were done on the 2,500 milligrams of the bioactive collagen peptide that we have in each stick. But actually, in those same studies, they did it with 5,000 too. And you see a little bit of an uptick in results, but not so much. So we made it one. But
in completely random news, I have hair growing on the bottom of my feet now, but it's probably not because I'm taking double Glotrition. Okay, back to being 53, being an incredible salesperson, and to kind of finding your flow, your sales style.
I think understanding and being able to relate to your audience is super important. So, like, I don't know if I would be as good at selling, I don't know, maybe cars or I don't know.
You don't believe in it.
Right. I would have to really find in my mind that connection with the person I was trying to sell to. I just think that's the first step always.
I love that. And I think that, maybe explain that to us one more time. I think that a word that with relationships, friends, spouses, etc., I think that the word I cling to is familiarity, where if I have something in common with somebody, we're going to jive.
Yeah.
We're going to get along. And I think that it's really, I couldn't sell a car to save my life because I don't care about them. I don't know anything about them. But maybe get us in your headspace again.
But it's not really about how much you know about cars. It's who's that person you're trying to sell to. So if this guy comes in the showroom, so immediately, as a salesperson, you assess, right? You kind of size somebody up. And in a situation like that, you don't have the luxury of kind of knowing their background or, Googling them or, doing your homework.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to relationship building. How good are you at that? And if you're not good at it and you want to be in sales, you better become good at that.
Yeah. Did you have to face challenges being a female business owner? Like,
Yes.
Oh, tell us.
Yeah. And I'm not that kind of person who's like, well, because I'm a woman, I should be, have these things afforded to me, or like be treated differently, or I'm not screaming on the rooftops about like, things need to be more fair for women. That said, I was shocked. So in broadcasting, I always felt a little bit of that inequity. My male co-anchor always made more money than I did, regardless of the experience. And it was just the way it was. So like I didn't, cry about it, because it was just the way it was. And it wasn't until I moved into this world of beauty. Now, the world of beauty is fantastic. It's a lot of women. It's all kumbaya. Everybody is like wants everybody to win, and it's really a great industry. The manufacturing side is very male-dominated industry, and very difficult to navigate, frankly, as a woman. And I hate that. I just because it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be just because I'm a woman and I meet you and I'm a big hugger. So like I might hug you, or I notice like I'll send emails and I would put like smiley faces at the end of emails, and I'm like, okay, so I'm being kind, and it's being mistaken as dumb or not serious, or some of those things. I have a friend who sold a company, a female friend who sold a company many years ago, and she sold her company for about $200 million. She grew a great big nutrition company, we'll call it, bars. I won't say the name of the company, but and we were on
Snickers?
No, we were on this retreat together, and I said, so what are you going to do now? And she said, I'm going to spend some time figuring out how to be a woman again. And I said, what? And I just barely started Glotrition, so I had no idea what she was talking about. And she went on to explain to me that like in this world, especially on the manufacturing side, because again, she had a product also, she said you have to toughen up, and you have to really develop some masculine energy if you want to be respected, if you want to be taken seriously. And I was like, no, really? And she goes, yeah. She said, when people talk about strong women who are direct and to the point, oh, she's a bitch, or it's a real thing. And she said, you have to be. You have to be tough, and unfortunately, you get labeled as, being difficult or whatever. She said, but if you want to get anything done, you got to be tough. So I stopped putting smiley faces at the end of my emails.
Doesn't that suck?
I started shaking hands instead of hugging. But
that sucks. I feel like I'm very in touch with my feminine side, and I think now having a daughter, something I was when she was first born, I was like, I'm going to be a masculine feminist, and I'm being kind of half-hearted, but I'm also serious that like I'm more like that too. But I think that what happened with me is I got hardened, where I had this moment last September. I have this note on my desk where I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden I was like, I see the worst in people before I see the best in them, because I've gotten burned and just hurt so many times, and that sucks. And I think that part of being a salesperson and part of being an entrepreneur and a leader is still being yourself, right? Not necessarily being a chameleon, but yeah, I mean, I've been on a similar situation, just with my industry, where it was mostly women 20-something years ago. And I wasn't taken seriously because I was myself, and then I found myself.
Plus your personality is very gregarious, and you're funny, and
which is polarizing to some people, and I think that, and thank you for that.
Well, and sometimes they don't take you seriously because of that,
or they think I'm a douchebag, and then I found myself like reaching out and I'm like, you don't know me, and I'm like, screw it. If I can just be myself and I can go to bed at night knowing that I've done everything that I can to be the best version of me, then eventually it'll kind of come back.
People will come around. And I mean, I think that's just like such a good, just general lesson for life, for business, for life. All of it is just, of course, you have to be true to who you are. Now, that said, if you have things about your personality that are problematic, that have caused you problems in your life, then it's time to reassess, and it's time to, fix things up.
Which and again, I think that the common thread between most of the things that I sucked at along the way was me, and a lot of those things I sucked at, it was relationships, and I had to learn to better myself. You know, I think, again, when you're in a successful position, you rarely have people like checking you, you know, and for me, I was like, oh, just kind of start over, do all this. And then finally, a few people are like, hey, you need to chill out. And I was like, what? And I just remembered like this feeling of, oh my gosh, I owe so many apologies. And
wow.
I went through an apology tour, 2019, right before I met my wife. And literally I'd go to Royal Blue almost every morning. Literally. I remember sitting in a room out here with like leading a class, and someone's like, well, who are you going to do this with? And I was like, what? I made this list. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I did this. And it was like ignorant, right? But it was freeing as hell. But you know, it still just proves that no matter where you're at, you can always use an improvement, right? So there could be Glotrition for the soul.
You always just need the self-check, you know, and if you're not able to do the self-check, man, I hope you're surrounded by people who love you enough to check you when you need it. And we all need that.
It's hard.
You know?
Let's get to the advice section of the conversation. You got somebody that's watching this right now, and they're 53, they want to start something, or they're 35, they want to start something, or you know, they're in the middle of their journey right now. What's the advice you give these people?
Man, it's such a good question, and I will tell you, as someone who has truly reinvented myself. I mean, I had one career, and now here I am with this. Always know that you are capable of doing far more than you give yourself credit for. We're always our worst enemies, you know, our worst critics. Keep going. Just keep going. Surround yourself by people who support your idea and who see your vision, and you know, keep learning, ask questions, find a mentor, find people who know more than you do, and people who are smarter than you. You know, for me, there was just such a learning curve with, again, on the production side, on like, how do you make a product? You know, how do you form a company? How do you get customers? How do you, like, it was just this, every day was just this learning curve. And I think you have to be very, very open to learning, and you have to understand that you don't know everything. You might think you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't.
I love it. Okay, well, regarding your product, we obviously want to bring as much exposure to you as possible. We want people to know about it.
Oh, that's nice.
Who's the audience for this? Who would take Glotrition?
You know, one of the other things that I'm very proud of with Glotrition and with the products that we've created, the first one being our Super Beauty Elixir, is
what does elixir mean?
Elixir. It's this delicious potion that you drink.
That's like the combination. The elixir is the wizard potion of all the I almost said vegetables, but all the nutrients that go into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got bioactive collagen, peptides, biotin, vitamin C, antioxidants, resveratrol, hyaluronic acid.
So many Google words right now.
I know.
Yeah. But who would use it?
It's all the good stuff for your skin, your hair, your nails. I think that our audience, it does lean female, but this is for everybody. It's for everybody. And let me tell you the other thing, that we don't talk about it a lot. We don't message this a lot, because, you know, when you form a company and a product, you get really tuned into what your messaging needs to be. And we're really talking to women, you know, 35 to 65 and beyond. And we're talking about anti-aging, and we're talking about wrinkles, we're talking about hair growth, we're talking about nail growth. None of that is terribly interesting for men. But the truth of the matter is the collagen and the biotin and all of it in this blend is fantastic for, muscle recovery. The collagen peptide is very satiating, so it kind of cuts your appetite a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of little nuggets.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I literally I got no problem taking care of myself, but I literally have felt a difference. And I remember when I first met you, I didn't know what crow's feet were, and then I found out I had them, and it's literally gone down. That was over the first like 3 or 4 months. But
that's what happens when you start feeding your skin on a cellular level. You know, bad skin or thinning hair, or it's all just a symptom of some sort of malnourishment that's happening in your body. So, you know, it's... Do you eat clean, and do you have a good lifestyle? Great. If the answer is yes, great. but still supplementing with things that can help that process along is, I think, so important. So we're very mindful about the ingredients that we use. We make sure that we have branded, patented ingredients that have clinical studies behind them. We always use those in the clinically effective amount. In the dietary supplement industry, which is a very, not a regulated industry really at all, you can get away with putting a little sprinkle of something in and then making lots of claims about what this ingredient can do, and there's not enough in there to make a difference for anybody. So one of the promises I made to myself when I developed Glotrition was, we're going to make sure that we have clinical studies on these ingredients that back them up, and we're going to make sure that we follow whatever they used in the clinical study. That's what we're going to put in a dose for this. So we've got our Super Beauty Elixir, which continues to be our bestseller. We also have our AM/PM Beauty Boosting Drops. So those are, the AM is helps with your lipid barrier in your skin, keeps your skin moist. And then the PM drops give you a beautiful night's sleep, no hangover in the morning, and all these really great vitamins that are working on your skin overnight. So, yeah.
Wow. Should I even ask what's next?
We have a couple things that are coming.
Oh, wow.
We have a gummy that is, that will be out, let's see, what is this, June, so by the end of summer.
Really?
Yeah,
so
very
what does that
exciting.
Mean? Like it's got CBD in it?
No. It's just a gummy. It's a gummy form.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But again, focused on, your skin, your hair, nails, all that stuff.
Love it.
It's delicious.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the competitive environment of the beauty space.
It's gotten crazy.
I can imagine.
It's gotten crazy, especially like after COVID. During COVID, people were home and they were taking time to figure out, like, what do they they were doing beauty routines. Nobody could get their nails done, so they were doing their nails at home. They were doing their hair at home, and they were really focusing and dialing in on wellness and self-care. And it's literally like the only good thing that came out of lockdown, I think, is that people really started to take seriously self-care. So this industry, the beauty wellness, we'll call it, industry, has just exploded. And so for us, we were kind of one of the OG, collagen, ingestible collagens out there, but it's gotten wildly competitive. And so our edge continues to be that we use clinically validated ingredients and we use them in the clinically effective amount. And the reason that's so stand out is because that's not common in the dietary supplement industry. Just so you know, there aren't regulations that guarantee that you're getting what they say you're getting. There are no regulations that guarantee that you're getting enough collagen to do anything for your skin, for your anything. So what we do is we source ingredients that have the clinical efficacy behind them, and then we use them in that same amount that they used in the clinical studies. And the cool thing is that
you sell without selling out.
Yes.
Yeah, how about that?
That's how we do it. The cool thing, though, is that I just completely forgot what I was going to say. Maybe I need to do a supplement for brain health.
It's after the gummies. No, you were just talking about the flow of how you've had you could go and kind of cheat it, right? Because you're not going to get in trouble, but you can't do that.
You can't do that. Like truly, that is my version of not selling out. Is like, if you buy a product from me, you are getting the very best ingredients, the very best quality, and you're getting it in a clinically effective amount. So it's actually going to do something for you. I mean, especially like in the beauty industry, it's ridiculous how much money we spend as women on beauty products. And I mean, like the creams and all the potions.
Oh, I see it. I remember when we first got married and she had like a steam machine and then she'd put these strips. I was like, what is going on? And the time commitment, good Lord, it's a lot.
Yeah, we're committed to it.
It works.
But it's you spend so much money on it. You want to make sure you're getting what you pay for. You want to make sure it's going to work.
True.
True. So that was always for me kind of a pain point in other products that I've used. Just going like, God, I spent how much money on this? And I can't tell a difference with anything.
Yeah.
So that actually makes me very proud, because you read the reviews for, say like our Super Beauty Elixir, and a lot of them are oh my gosh, my husband's giving me compliments on my skin, and
you're changing lives. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Little ways.
You are. I mean, people, you got to feel good.
It's important that people feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And if we're playing a small role in that, then yeah.
Or you're playing a huge role in it.
Yeah.
And so, okay, and to wrap it up, obviously you're a unicorn. You've done everything, and you've been you are. You've done everything, and you've done.
I'm going to come here every day.
Well, we're here. We're open 7 days a week here at the Rogers Healy Companies.
For you to hype me up.
But for real, everything you've done it to the best and to the maximum capacity. And my last question is, how have you gone and parlayed your background in TV journalism to being a salesperson for your company, Glotrition, knowing you're obviously still on TV, but how has that kind of crossed over?
When I was in broadcasting as a news anchor, it was my job to speak to people through the camera. And it was my job to read a teleprompter and make it seem natural, because you're just telling people stories, right? You're reading them stories. And so for me, I kind of honed this talent, I guess, for lack of a better word, for making things very relatable. If I'm talking about, a story about a neighborhood bake sale, whatever it is, to be able to talk about that in a way that resonates with the people who are watching, you have to learn how to do that. And I think it's the same in sales. Like we were talking about before, you just have to really understand who you're talking to. And so for me, that ability to sort of like bring things into this space that feels very friendly and very approachable, I kind of took that, and that's how I sell with my product. Is I try to be approachable and keep things like, hey, we're all in this together.
You don't even have to try. You're just being yourself.
I'd like to think so, but sometimes sometimes it's challenging, right? Because like not every day is a good day. And, you touched on something before where you said, just about like the small wins and then the big wins. And then like you sell 1,000 units, and then when are we going to sell 10,000 units? And, and we had this happen. I had this happen not too long ago, because we reached this like crazy milestone of our monthly sales. And I said, man, I remember when I would have killed just to have like $1,000 in sales in a month. That just would have been amazing. And, here we are, and it's just like such a ridiculously large number compared to that I was just like, man, that's so cool. And I allowed myself, I celebrated it for, I think, like maybe 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Before then, it was like the stress of, oh God, okay, so now I've got to beat that next month, because we got to show the numbers, and it's got to be going that way. And I really scolded myself over that. And I thought, God, you have to be able to celebrate all the wins, just like you did when you first started it.
Yeah.
You have to allow yourself that, or else it just becomes this hamster wheel that you're on, and then it's just like all the joy's taken out of it.
I suck at it. I suck at that so much.
But how does it change things for you when you actually do mindfully take the time to go, hey, good job. Super proud of myself.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying though too. I'm real big on the journey, not the destination.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as I'm like, all right, something's working, I have to go and like live in it a little bit. But then when there's an accolade or an accomplishment, which is an accolade, and when there's an end, I'm like, what's next? And I think I have to game my mind to always have to be chasing something. If not, I'll just sit there and either get bored or I check out.
And I think that's an important part of sales, frankly, of successful sales, is you do have to have a little bit of that where you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? But also just as humans that need self-love to be able to take that time to really pat yourself on the back and say, man, this is great. And to realize that, you've gone through so many challenges, or we'll call them failures.
Yeah.
But really, they're all learning experiences. And I think a lot of sales is reframing things in your mind, to change the way you're thinking about things. And it's constantly evolving, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's never going to change.
Yeah.
You're awesome. You're a legend, and you deserve all your success. And I'm grateful for you sharing your heart and your story, and the people that are watching this and listening. I hope that you can realize that like most successful salespeople, there's nothing Lisa said that you haven't heard before. It's just that she lives it. And I think cliches are cliche for a reason, and that's because they're true.
There's something to them, yeah.
So we're grateful for you guys paying attention today. And Lisa, thank you for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You were
This
incredible.
is great.
This was a very natural, not easy, but a very natural conversation. I'm proud to be your friend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Pineiro, and that is how you sell without selling out. Roger's that.